Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named I'm Drinking Apple Juice and is titled, My supervisor met my boyfriend and now she wants an HR meeting. I'm posting here because my friends are busy and I feel like this is the next best thing since I listen every week and love reading everybody's comments and opinions on stuff. I am a high school science teacher and my boyfriend is an OnlyFans model. Today, after school, he helped me carry in some stuff for a lab I'll be doing with my kids. When he arrived, the principal, I'll call her Jan, was outside for dismissal and was able to meet him. While he was helping me set everything up in my classroom, Jan came in and asked if they had ever met since he looked familiar. My boyfriend said he didn't think so, and that was that. When we finished, I gave him a tour of the school that ended at the office. Jan was still there and greeted us again before a look of what I can only describe as fear came across her face. She quickly excused herself and we were left alone and confused. My boyfriend asked if maybe she recognized him from his OnlyFans page. I said surely not, since she's a middle-aged woman who barely knows how to use her phone. He let me live in denial until I got a text from her as we were cooking dinner. She said this: "Good evening, I'd like to have a meeting with you and X from HR tomorrow morning. Please be in my office at 7 a.m. So now I'm almost certain that my boyfriend was right, and she does know him from his page. He keeps trying to reassure me that it's not about that, but I can see in his eyes that he's at least a little proud of himself. I've kicked him out to go buy me some stress snacks, my friends are busy, and my family doesn't know he's an OnlyFans model, so I don't know who else to turn to. Maybe y'all have advice for me, I want to crawl out of my skin. Update. Hello, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to make a separate post for an update or not. Sorry, this is my first time actually posting on Reddit. Please let me know if I'm not supposed to. I asked for advice and y'all gave so much. Thank you. I felt very supported. Also, a lot of y'all clocked it. I do work for a religious private school. Anyway, I arrived for my meeting at 7. I know a lot of you thought it was early, but school starts at 7:45, so it was a normal time for me. I did record the meeting, and even though I am in a one-party consent state, I asked to be safe. The meeting started with Jan saying that it had recently come to their attention that my boyfriend had been publicly participating in lewd acts. I asked what she meant since, as far as I knew, my boyfriend had never had charges filed against him for something like that. That's when the HR lady Pam said that somebody found his OnlyFans account. Like many of you said, I asked what that was since I had never heard of it. They explained, although they did not look as uncomfortable as I had hoped. Then they asked if I had ever participated in or intended to participate in one of his videos. I said no. Jan said that I couldn't bring any unvetted guests into the building, so I pulled up the email thread I had asking for permission and reminded her that he had his ID scanned in order to get a temporary badge. Pam said that it was due to the nature of his online activity that he would no longer be allowed in the school. I said okay and asked if, when I brought my dad to help with things in the future, would I need to disclose his online activity as well. Pam said that wasn't necessary, but that they couldn't have any teacher or staff member affiliated with a sex worker. I asked what that meant, and she said that I could not bring him onto school grounds, to school functions, or anything relating to the school. Additionally, since the school represented the church, the staff could only have relationships with people who upheld a dignified image. Apparently, my boyfriend doesn't do that. She also said that if they receive one report from a parent, student, or staff member of my affiliation with him after this meeting, that would be grounds for immediate termination. I asked if that also applied to the staff member who reported it in the first place, since they went onto a porn site. Jan said that was irrelevant, that the meeting was about me, not the other staff member. The meeting ended shortly after. They asked me to sign an acknowledgement of the meeting. I told them I wanted to review it first and brought it home with me. My boyfriend is furious and at the same time keeps apologizing, saying that it's his fault, but it's not. The standards for teachers are crazy. We're going to have a little Indeed LinkedIn date, so hopefully I can get out of there as soon as possible. Lesson learned though, never take a job at a religious school. The Faye host said, also, for the future, many of these sites allow you to region block. I region block my area to avoid stalkers. Sure, they could just use a VPN, but if the Pornhub bans have taught me anything, it's that a surprising amount of people in my own age group do not know how to do that. Fictional Context said, I read the original and I thought it would be a slam dunk lawsuit for a government employee to be disciplined for that. However, with the added context in the update that she's teaching at a private Christian school while dating a popular OnlyFans model, I just want to facepalm. This outcome was inevitable. To this user, Ka'aha said, yes, those of us who work for our states usually have really strong employment protection. Even so, before tenure, many religious schools have no tenure nor anything beyond annual renewal of contracts, and so many of them rely almost completely on young childless women of their own faith to teach the classes. A public school teacher ought not to be involved in community scandal. Where I live, for K-12, a teacher has a permanent job when their third-year contract is renewed. It pretty much guarantees a job until retirement, unless the teacher commits a violent felony. Magic Rowan Tree said, religious schools always have weird rules. They're the homeowners association of schools, always making up things to fit their idea of perfection. I attended one in middle school and remember a girl who almost got suspended for wearing jeans with handprints on them. Their excuse was that it looked like she allowed people to touch her butt. Her mother worked at the school, so she just had to change clothes, but there was tension around the girl and her mom from staff for a while. Also, I was stupid enough to send my oldest child to a religious preschool because Head Start sucks in my area. 3 months in, we were all stressed to hell and I had to pull my kid out because my kid went from loving school to being a traumatized, wailing mess the moment we got into the parking lot. So yeah, religious schools like this can burn in hellfire for all I care. This next post was made about 2 years ago in the Relationship Advice subreddit by a throwaway account. The post is titled, I want my father to be the sperm donor for my fiance and I, but she thinks this is wrong. My fiance and I have been doing some future planning lately. We're set to get married in the spring next year and we know we both want kids, so we sat down and talked about how we'd like to make that happen. She's okay with adopting, but I'm not. And we determined that the option that makes us both the happiest is getting a sperm donor. It's extremely important to me that the baby be genetically related to both of us. Since she's not in contact with her family, the only way the baby would be related to both of us is if she carries the child and the sperm comes from my side of the family. I'm an only child and I have no uncles or male cousins. The only way we could do this is if my dad is the donor. I figured he would be excited to help us have the family we've always dreamed of, and I talked it over with him and he was totally on board. He said he'd let my mom know we were planning on adding to our family. Everything is ready to go on our end whenever we decide to start trying. I thought it was a really beautiful way to unite our sides of the family, and I know my dad felt the same, but to my surprise, my fiance was really against it. She laughed at me at first, which confused me because we were having a serious conversation, and then she asked if I was joking. When I said I wasn't, her face immediately dropped. She literally looked disgusted. She said that would be really weird as our baby would be my sibling and that she wasn't comfortable with that in any way, shape, or form. My dad has stepped in a bit for her because of the aforementioned homophobia in her family and has become a secondary sort of father figure for her, which she brought up. She said having his baby felt wrong and incestuous. She said it wouldn't feel like a medical procedure or fertility help. It would feel sexual. That's insane. I don't see how it's different from any other donor other than actually meaning something to us. I am honestly kind of insulted. This is a rejection of my family as well as me, and the fact that she refused to even consider it made me feel overruled in something that's supposed to include both of us. I couldn't see myself having a connection to a baby that isn't related to me. It wouldn't be my baby, just a baby I'm taking care of. Even if she says she doesn't feel the same, I think she'd have a hard time with it if it was the other way around and the baby wasn't related to her. This feels like our only option and she shot it down without considering my feelings. This is really important to me. I'm worried we won't be able to compromise on this and we'll never have kids, which would be a deal breaker for me. Additionally, this is also the cheaper option for kids. We wouldn't have to pay for donor sperm, which can cost a lot, and we wouldn't have to do expensive IVF procedures either, since if we get it from my dad, it can all be done at home. How am I supposed to deal with this? Update. Before I say anything else, I want to say thank you to those of you who responded to me with concern. Someone linked to a page on emotional incest and it was really eye-opening for me. A lot of people were quick to jump to judgment, so I really appreciate the few who were nice. I read all the comments, was shocked and horrified and hurt, took a night to process, and then had another talk with my fiance. Goes nearly without saying that we are taking a break right now while I figure some stuff out. We are still staying together, we still have plans to get married, but are seriously reconsidering kids and putting a lot of things on hold right now for both of our health. She's been a lot more hurt by this than I think I realized when I first posted. I don't want to get too deep into my family's issues, but I'm starting to realize that the way I was raised wasn't normal. I am an only child, but my parents always wanted a big family, like 5 or more kids. Unfortunately, for a bunch of reasons, both monetary and otherwise, it never worked out. I think they always imagined they'd have the big family they wanted when I had kids, so they pushed me to do that every chance they got. My mom always says that being pregnant with me was the happiest she was. My parents had no idea I was thinking of at-home IUI, and my mom nearly went through the roof when I clarified. She said she wouldn't have even considered it if she knew I hadn't asked my girlfriend if she was sure yet, and that it was really stupid of me not to go for IVF. It was just a really thoughtless action on my part. It's still important to me that a future child either be blood-related or be carried by me, so I think that if we ever have any in the future, I'll be the pregnant one so I can feel that connection. We weren't going to do that at first because I have a really stressful career path and it would have been smarter for my girlfriend to get pregnant, but I think it's the healthiest option for us. We're not serial killers, cultists, or incest fetishists. It all sounded really reasonable to me at the time. I had absolutely no idea that there would be this much disgust coming from everyone. I've decided the best thing for me is to go into therapy as soon as possible and limit my contact with my parents for a while. They mean well and really love me, but I think I might need to figure some stuff out on my own. Update from today. I haven't logged on to Reddit in months, so I hadn't realized people were wondering what happened with us. I had attempted to post an update months ago, but it was removed as spam. We are still together. Nobody is pregnant with my father's sperm. In fact, I started therapy soon after the original post and have now been no contact with my family for 3 months. I realized a lot of my perspective on the issue was caused by some really messed up ideas I was raised with. When I tried to bring that stuff up with my parents and possibly try to start family therapy, they went ballistic. At this point, if we do have kids, my parents might not ever meet those grandchildren. It wasn't a result my fiance or I could ever have anticipated at the time of the original post, but that's just how the cookie crumbled. Looking back, I can definitely see where all the extremely disgusted reactions to my original post were coming from. I still think the attacks on my personal character were unwarranted. I think that a lot of people won't understand how being raised in a seriously dysfunctional family can impact your thinking until they deal with that themselves. The craziest stuff just felt normal to me. I wish I'd never let my parents get so personally involved in my relationships from the start. Onion Man said, "Yo, what the f?" Unintentional Wipe said, "I feel like I'm missing something." The mom was disgusted by the idea, and I think the dad agreed, thinking that OP already asked her fiance about this. I'm not sure why she went no contact with her parents after all of this. It seems like it was her idea, and now she's blaming her parents for it when everyone was rightfully disgusted by this. All I got from this was that OP's mom was happy being pregnant, so OP wanted a baby that was biologically hers without being pregnant, and that's somehow her parents' fault. I'm confused. Grossed out and confused. Zool said, "Man, I don't even know about this one. I think her parents had the right to get weirded out and not go to therapy with her after pulling that stunt. I find therapy to be a helpful tool, but it can too easily be weaponized by manipulative people. She was the one who wanted her wife to have her dad's baby. She needs to work on herself before making everyone go to counseling, and now she has swung from that to going no contact with her parents and deciding she will be the pregnant one, even though it's bad for her career, or else she risks not bonding with the baby. All this at 21 years old. She seems to be a person of extremes, and that's not a stable environment to raise children." This third post was made in the AITA subreddit by a user named Dizzy Brick. The post is titled, "I want to dump my fiance after she injured herself while I was away. While I was away on business, my fiance decided to go out without telling me. We spoke in the afternoon. I was on my way to the airport ahead of an 8-hour flight, which was arriving at 5 a.m. Her friend had just come back from out of state, and she was planning on taking her out to dinner. Once I landed, I didn't want to wake her as she normally gets up around 7 a.m. I got home and she wasn't there. Her car was parked outside, but she wasn't in bed. For a moment, I panicked and thought she had gone to surprise me at the airport, and I somehow missed her, but her car was outside. I called her, and her phone rang to voicemail. I called 10 more times while I showered and changed. At first, I wasn't too worried, thinking maybe she went for a run, but the scenarios running through my head were getting darker. We have our phones on our iCloud account in case we lose them, so I brought it up to find her location. Her iPhone was at the hospital. My heart sank. I started heading to the hospital. All her family lives out of state, so there's no one to call. The hospital is 10 minutes away. I sped, ran red lights, parked right in front of the emergency department door, and went in like a maniac, demanding the triage staff tell me where my wife is. They took me to her room. She's asleep in bed, but I can immediately see she's hurt. Her lip is swollen and she looks like she's been beaten up. There are bruises on her face and she has a splint on her nose. My panic and worry morph into rage and I demand to know what happened and who did this to her. I was informed that she arrived in an ambulance at 2 a.m., having drunkenly stumbled and face planted onto the curb while leaving a bar. She had a broken nose, a chipped tooth, and other minor abrasions and scratches, but she was going to be fine. This made absolutely no sense. I seriously feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. I don't drink, never have, and she hasn't touched alcohol since college. Basically, I don't even know what's happening at this point. She's tried to offer up some kind of explanation about how her friend pressured her to have wine while they were at dinner, and then they somehow ended up in a bar. I've been giving her the silent treatment, and it's 8 p.m. She has been crying and wanting some sort of consolation or reassurance, but I genuinely think I'm done. This whole thing just came out of left field and I'm not handling it well at all. We've been living together since we got engaged and it would be a pretty clean split. Her parents own the house, so I can basically just take my stuff and go, I guess. I really don't know what to do. We've been together for a year and a half and I feel like we could get past this, but it's like this whole ordeal and the emotional roller coaster have sapped away the love I felt for her. Anyways, sorry for the novel, but would I be the bad guy if I dump her? Update. She broke off the engagement. We had a long talk and apparently I've been cold and unsupportive. She feels betrayed by my attitude and thinks my expectations are unrealistic, saying that she's a human, not a robot. She said she needs someone who can let her fail and I am not that person. Update 2. We broke up after being engaged for 6 months. One night when we were at her parents' place, her father gave it to me as a gift. It was shortly after we got engaged and it wasn't my birthday or anything like that. There was no occasion. He just gave it to me and said, I want you to have this. He took it off his wrist. I'm unlikely to ever see him again as he lives in California and I live in New York. He hasn't asked for it back, nor has my ex. I doubt she has any clue what it's worth, but I've had it appraised and it's worth over 70 grand. Would I be the bad guy if I keep the watch and don't say anything? I'm Not Creepy said, what kind of person sees their fiance injured and has their first thought be to get mad at them for being injured? To this user off with my head said, trust me, I had a boyfriend like that. He berated me every time something silly happened to me by accident, while I found it hilarious. Like the time I sat on a swing and the ropes broke, or I stepped on an iced over pond and my leg went through. He made it all about him. Everything. This OP has the strictest expectations of his fiance, and she needs to comply or he kicks her to the curb. Notice how he says he has such a stressful job that any stress in his private life needs to be minimal. Buddy, that's not how life works. To me, it seems very clear that he does not really have any self-awareness, and he is an angry little man struggling with life itself. Work stress, getting angry in a crisis situation, that's his problem. OP needs therapy to learn to take responsibility and develop better coping mechanisms. Joe Teepee said, for crying out loud, if she tripped and fell that hard, then that explains why she was so disoriented. She may not have even been that drunk. Glad she got rid of that trash. To this user, Lazarus said, I have sprained my ankle to the point of requiring medical care 3 separate times from simply stepping off a curb wrong or walking. One time, a Good Samaritan had to pick me up off the ground and help me home because I couldn't stand up or walk by myself. I managed to hit my face that time because it happened so fast I couldn't put my arms up. The most recent time, I was walking down a flat, unbroken sidewalk to get my son off the bus and my ankle rolled. I had to have physical therapy. That's how bad that one was. I was stone cold sober every time. I just have weak ankles. I can't imagine being injured and my partner blaming me because I happen to have some drinks, or even happen to be super drunk. Sometimes these things just happen and you weren't trying to be irresponsible. His girlfriend definitely dodged a bullet. A deleted user who said, that guy was not honest about how he acts, he is way more controlling. Some drugs are not detectable after a few hours, so she could have been drugged or just drunk too much. He overreacted and the update definitely shows he is an awful person. She would not have dumped him otherwise. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, GamerSupps. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.